Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This episode would be dedicated to answering our big log back of emails. And we will not be receiving any of your phone calls. So if you have a question, either send us an email or postpone it and delay it until we have a live episode that we could attend your queries and questions with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Brother Naseem says that if you miss Isha prayers, is it permissible to pray late night, that is, to pray tahajjud time? If a person misses a prayer, it is one of the two. Either he missed it deliberately without a legitimate reason, or he missed it due to a legitimate reason. And let's look at the two cases. If a person skips Isha until the middle of the night is over, this means that his making up for Isha would not be legitimate and it would not be accepted. Why is that? Because the Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, in an authentic hadith, whenever one of you oversleeps over a prayer or forgets it, he must pray it as soon as he remembers it. And why is that? The Prophet says, there is no expiation except that. And that is praying it as soon as you remember it or as soon as you wake up. No expiation. The man who forgets it did not do anything wrong. This is not in his ability, and that is why Allah says, رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَخِذْنَا إِن نَسِينَا وَأَخْطَأْنَا. Do not burden us if we forget or make a mistake. And Allah said, I would do that. So if someone forgets something, he's not held accountable. And if someone oversleeps over prayer, he's not held accountable, because sleeping is not something in your control. You overslept. The Prophet saying that there is no expiation except praying it once you remember it means that if you leave or postpone or delay or miss a prayer for other than these two reasons, sleeping or forgetting, then you are sinful and you cannot pray and you cannot make up for these days missed. And it's very simple. And this is the choice of Shaykh al-Islam bin Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased with him. It's like someone coming for Hajj. And we know that Hajj is Arafah. The biggest pillar of Hajj is standing at Mount Arafah. And it is on the 9th day of the Hijjah. So if someone intending to perform Hajj, he leaves his home, he travels by airplane on time, but then something wrong happens, they land in a different country, the aircraft is not suitable for flying, the journey is delayed for a day or two for technicalities, he comes to Saudi Arabia and there's a problem with his visa, he's being held for a couple of days, and before he knows it, it's the 11th day of the Hijjah, 2 days after Arafah. And the guy takes a car and goes to Arafah on the 11th day after Eid, and he stands there in Arafah. What are you doing, bro? He says, I'm performing Hajj. I said, yeah, but today is the 11th and there's no one in Mount Arafah to stand with you. He said, yeah, I know, I missed it, but I had legitimate reasons. You know, my plane had this and that, and I was held at customs and so on. So now I'm making it up. would anyone say that this is permissible? The answer is definitely not, because Hajj is prescribed on this particular time, the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, and you missed it, so you missed the whole Hajj. Likewise, if you're supposed to pray Isha between this time, and you missed it deliberately, you cannot make it up. Even if you pray and make it up, it would not be accepted. It would not help you. Therefore, if you miss a prayer deliberately without a legitimate reason, you cannot make this up. But if you oversleep, if you forget, you are working and you're doing something, this happens a lot with us, those who are used to praying in the masjid. Sometimes we go after Asr with the family off-roading or camping outside the skirts of the city. When we go, we pray Asr there, we pray Maghrib, and just after Maghrib, we head back to the city. The drive is about an hour. So we miss Isha prayer because we are driving back home. We reach home after Isha has finished. We take our luggage, we take our stuff, we clean the car, we have a shower, we clean ourselves. And it happens to me a lot that I just sit and forget about Isha until it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock a.m. And then it strikes me, subhanAllah, I didn't pray Isha. Why? Because I'm used to praying Isha in the masjid. So once I miss it, it's gone, as if it's a system. In this case, I'm not sinful. I can make wudu and pray Isha, even if it is after midnight, even if it's the following day or even a week later. Once I remember, I have to pray it immediately. Now, does this relate to night prayer? Meaning that if I deliberately did not pray Isha until its time was out, and as a bit of information, a lot of the Muslims think that Isha time is over when Fajr is due. This is wrong. Isha time is over when it is midnight, the Islamic proper midnight. So how do I calculate midnight in Islam? It's very simple. You see how many hours from sunset till the break of dawn. So if the sun sets at, let's say, 6 o'clock p.m. and Fajr is at 4 o'clock a.m., between them there are 10 hours. The half of these 10 hours is 5. You add 5 hours to sunset time, which is 6, then the Islamic night would be 11 p.m. So it's not always 12 p.m. as a lot of the Muslims think. It can shift an hour or more earlier or even later, depending on the sunset and the Fajr time. So this takes us back to the question of Brother Naseem, and that is, if you miss Isha prayer, can you pray Tahajjud? The answer is yes. If you missed it for a legitimate reason, or if you did not miss it for a legitimate reason, it is now time for Tahajjud. If you wake up, you can offer night prayer or Tahajjud up till Fajr time. And once the adhan for Fajr is called, then you cannot pray Tahajjud nor do your witr. Brother Zahid from the United Arab Emirates, he says, when halala is required, he's asking, when is halala required? And halala is a currency, part of the riyal, the Saudi currency. And I don't believe that he meant halala, the currency, and he meant the muhallil. So he's asking, what are the rules governing the muhallil? And he's referring to couples that cannot remarry until the ex-wife marries another man. Can you please clarify on this matter? Divorce in Islam is 3. A man can divorce his wife 3 times only. And the first 2 are considered possible to reconciliate. So you can reconcile with your wife if you divorce her for the first time and she becomes your wife again. It's no problem as long as you reconcile with her in the iddah time, which is the waiting period prescribed in the Quran after a divorce takes place. For normal women, it is through 3 menses, 3 monthly periods. For a woman who does not have monthly period because of her age, she's over 60 and 70, she's in her menopause, her period, her iddah is 3 months. For a woman who's pregnant, her iddah is to give birth. Once she delivers, she is immediately a stranger to her husband if he does not reconcile before that with her. So there are different numbers of iddahs. If you divorce your wife the first time, you have the right to reconcile with her without her consent as long as she is in the iddah period. If you do this, if you reconcile with her, this is 1 down, 2 to go. Something happens in the future, you divorce her for the second time, and you reconcile with her during the iddah period. Then she is your wife. This is 2 down and 1 to go. Now we have a problem with the third divorce. Because if something comes up and you divorce her for the third time, she becomes a stranger to you and there is no way that you can reconcile with her. Sheikh, I made a mistake. I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. We have kids. We have this. We have that. We can't destroy our marriage. You had 3 chances, my friend, and you blew it. And you divorced her first, second, and the third time. And you had your chances. Quran says that it is not lawful for you to remarry her again unless she marries another man. A correct and a legitimate marriage, and she has what a woman would have with her husband, and then he divorces her willingly, only then you can remarry her again. So this is the situation regarding divorce. Now what is al-muhallil and al-muhallal lahu? Well, in such divorces, when a man divorces his wife 3 times, they love each other. So they figure out we cannot marry each other unless we get someone to marry the ex-wife and then divorces her, and then I can marry her again. I can go back to her again. And this is a trick. A lot of the Muslims think that this is legitimate for them to do. What they do? They go and ask one of their friends to marry his ex and then divorces the following day. Is this halal? Is this permissible? This is not permissible at all, and the marriage is invalid, it's void, it's not correct, and it's not lawful for this first husband to go back to his wife after such a marriage. The wife of Rifa'ah al-Quradi, may Allah be pleased with her, she came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, I married Rifa'ah and he divorced me 3 times and now I cannot go back to him. And then I married another man. Can I, after having the divorce, go back to Rifa'ah?" The Prophet smiled and said, "No, until you have intercourse with the second man." Just the contract itself with the second husband does not, after divorcing her, permit her to marry the first husband. It has to be a legitimate and correct marriage with all the consequences of such a marriage, and that is to have intimacy and intercourse with the wife. Now, what happens if I divorced my wife 3 times and I went to some of my friends and said, "Listen, why not marry my ex and, have fun, stay with her for a week or 2, divorce her, and then I go back to her." Is this acceptable? This is inshallah what we will find after the break. So stay tuned.
Blessed Nights, hosted by Dr. Muhammad Salah, features special guests in a friendly gathering explaining and reflecting upon selected verses of the Quran from that evening's Taraweeh prayer.
And there is an American sister who's very active in Da'wah in Egypt, told me personally that she traveled between Buddhism and Christianity and different sects. And when she came to read the Quran, she started by reading from right to left. Surah Al-Fatiha. She said, I swear, once I finished it, I fainted. I could not believe myself that there is such book that people were so negligent and ignorant about. That has to be the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she said, I accepted Islam simply after reading Surah Al-Fatiha and knowing
the first chapter,
it's
7 verses.
7 verses.
The Arabic itself, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Quran. So this is by itself is a medicine.
It is a word of Allah.
It's a word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It goes into the heart.
It was not created, rather Allah spoke it out.
Join us every night in Ramadan. May Allah bless you and your family in this holy month of Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So we have a situation. I divorced my wife 3 times and I cannot reconcile with her. I cannot remarry her again because the Quran tells me that she has to marry another man. And I want to go back to my wife, but this is a punishment from Allah so that people would not misuse divorce as if it's a toy that they just cast here and there. So what would I do? Well, I came with this devious plan. I went to a friend and I said, listen, why not marry my ex and after a week or 2, divorce her and then we can reconcile and remarry again. And he does this. And he marries my wife, my ex, and then he divorces her. And then I could get married to her. Is this permissible? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu salam, those who do this, that is my friend, is cursed by Allah. And those who it's done for, and that is me, is also cursed by Allah. لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُحَلِّلَ وَالْمُحَلَّلُ لَهُ. So it is cursed by Allah Azza wa Jal. It is not something to be taken lightly. So if my intention as the first husband to get my ex back, this makes the marriage invalid. And if my friend's intention is the same, even if I'm not cooperating or even if I don't know about this, if he's doing it from his own, I divorced my wife 3 times and now we're strangers. I can't marry her until someone else marries her. And a friend of mine felt sorry for me and he said to himself, well, this is what I'll do. I'll propose to her, I'll marry her for a month and then divorce her so that they can go back to each other. And I'm doing them a favor. The woman doesn't know and the first husband doesn't know. Is this permissible? Scholars say no, because his intention is completely forbidden and he's cursed. But if the first husband doesn't know, it's the second husband who's cursed and the first husband has no sin in that. Okay, what about if the woman knows and the first and the second husband do not have any such intention? This is permissible. If a woman marries another man without any agreement between the first husband and the second husband and not having any intention of divorcing or so, and she herself is intending that, like the case of the wife of Rifa'ah al-Quradi, may Allah be pleased with her. She had this intention when she agreed to marry the second husband. The Prophet ﷺ did not blame her for that, but he told her that it has to be a correct and complete marriage, the full package, and not until you have intercourse with him that you can go back to your first husband. So the first and second husband have no idea about her intention. And both were legitimate marriages. So if she knows about it, if she intends it, this is no problem. If her guardian, her father, knows about it, this is no problem. The problem is with the first husband and the second husband collaborating, or one of them having this intention, and this is haram. I hope this addresses the issue a little bit more. Alina from Pakistan says that I'm an asthmatic and I need to know if the use of inhalers, and she writes the brands, is allowed during fasting, Ramadan or otherwise. And the answer comes to us from the Permanent Committee of IFTA, and they say that the inhalers are not considered to be food or drink because it does not go to the stomach. It is something that people with asthmas, may Allah Azza wa Jal cure them and restore their health to them and make it easy upon them all. They use these inhalers to be able to breathe. So what they do is they inhale it. So it is not form of food, and it's not a form of drink, and it's not something that they find their desires in. And therefore, it does not affect the fasting at all. Her second question is that on the ruling of breaking nafil fasting, is this allowed? So I have the habit of fasting Mondays and Thursdays. And I started fasting this Monday, and all of a sudden I thought that I have something to do, or someone invited me to a very delicious meal, and I just want to eat it. So can I break my fast? The answer is definitely yes, you can. When you're fasting, voluntary fasting, you are the leader of your own self. You are the ruler or the emir of your own self, whether you continue or you break it. This is voluntary, and this is what the Prophet used to do, alayhi salatu wasalam. He used to go to Fajr prayer, and he comes back when it's about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And he would ask his wife, is there any food today? If she says yes, he says, bring the food, I want to eat it. And if she says no, then he says, well, okay, in this case, I'm fasting today. So a person offering voluntary fasting, he has a choice to change, to fast, to continue, not to continue. This is up to him, insha'Allah. Tufi from Sweden, and I presume she's a sister. Well, actually, no, it is a brother. Brother Tufi from Sweden. He says that we are a small Muslim community in a small town in Sweden. About 90% of those who come to our masjid do not speak Arabic. I used to lead the prayer, although I feel I don't have enough knowledge. I just can recite about 50 or memorize about 15 surahs, but I'm the only one who can read properly Arabic. My question, how about the Friday sermon, the khutbah of Friday? We have a brother who used to do it, but almost nobody understands a word. I used to stand up between the two khutbah and do a translation in Swedish. Is it right, or is it the right thing to do? Or do we have to do the first one in Arabic and the second one in Swedish? First of all, if you are the only one capable of reciting the Quran in proper Arabic, it is a must. It is mandatory for you to lead the prayer. It is not permissible for someone who's non-Arab and does not speak Arabic or does not know how to say the Arabic words. It is not permissible for him to lead the prayer in your presence because he would not be able to recite the Fatiha or the surahs properly. He would twist the letters, and this is not permissible in Quran, and it's not permissible in Salah when there is someone who is capable of doing this properly. Therefore, you have to lead the prayer. Now, regarding the khutbah, regarding the Friday sermon, scholars have different opinions. Some of them say that it has to be in Arabic from the beginning to the end. And this is not the most authentic opinion of scholars, because the Friday sermon is designated and it is made so that people would understand and benefit. And what is the use of giving a sermon where no one is able to understand what you're saying? It has no benefit at all. It's not even logical. I remember one year I went to Delhi in India, and I think it was maybe in 2004. And I went to one of the biggest mosques in the old Delhi district and area, or somewhere, I'm not sure. But we came early, mashallah. We found all the Muslims in that masjid packed, mashallah. It was something to bring joy to the soul to see all these Muslims coming early before prayer, like half an hour or 45 minutes, just waiting for the sermon to begin and for the prayer to be concluded. And when the Imam came, he was in his middle 70s probably, and he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and the Imam and the Mu'adhin gave the adhan, and then he gave two khutbahs, two sermons, as the norm is in Friday. Now, to my surprise, it was in what I think that it was Arabic. He was reading from a book. And being an Arab, I could not understand a single word. And looking at the brothers around me, I could surely say that they did not understand the word. So the only person on that Friday in that masjid who understood what was going on probably was the Imam who was reading the book. And I hope, for his sake, that he understood what he had said. So after leaving the masjid, I came to think, and this is not logical. All these hundreds of thousands, all these millions of Muslims praying and attending the Friday congregation and unable to understand a word. What's the benefit of attending a prayer then? That is the Friday, which is the only advice, the only sermon that they hear throughout the year. This is not logical at all. Therefore, saying that it has to be fully in Arabic is not the most authentic opinion unless it's in an Arab country or the majority of those in the masjid are Arabs. Then it has to be in Arabic. But if you are in a foreign country, if you're in Sweden, for example, and 90% are Turkish or Somalians or from this country or that country who are not capable to understand Arabic, but they are able to understand the local language, the language of the country, which is Sweden. Therefore, I would advise that the khutbah would be read in Sweden, the first and the second. But the beginning has to be in the Arabic language, which is Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nasta'inuhu, etc. And also that he would recite the three ayahs, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. And they would say, offer salutation to the Prophet ﷺ. All of this combined would be considered to be the prerequisites for a khutbah in Arabic, and it's been said. The rest can all be in Swedish or in any other language, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. I believe we have a break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we will be right back.
Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad sheds light on the second best generation of this community, the successors to the companions. These stories serve as guidelines for us covering all spheres of life, political.
Now let us understand how Islam deals with prisoners of war. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz told his son a very important policy that has been used now by so many jurists to address some contemporary issues.
Worship,
He used to pray 1,000 rak'ah. 1,000 rak'ah a day. Maybe we wouldn't understand how they managed to pray 1,000 rak'ah. There is an element of barakah that Allah Jalla wa Ala gives to certain people.
social,
Who is going to allow me to marry their daughters? I am a poor person. I don't have money. I only have 2 dirhams. Who would accept me to marry their daughters while I'm in that devastated situation? Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib said, I do.
as well as economic and other aspects of our daily life.
Then he gave his instructions that when they send something, they should use either a piece of paper or a piece of skin in proportional to what they have written. Do you want to call this as caring about the environment? Do you want to to consider this as a matter of worrying about the wealth of Muslims?
Don't miss out on Second Best, airing on Huda TV. May Allah bless you and your family.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Brother Tufi's second question, and he's from Sweden. He says that when our khatib, our orator, is not available for Friday and nobody is capable of delivering the khutbah, I feel I have to do it myself and my knowledge is very limited. Should I continue? Now, a lot of the times, shaitan, the devil, puts hurdles and obstacles in our way. And the easiest thing to do is that you're not qualified. That you shouldn't do this because you're not a pious or righteous person. Or you have a lot of sins. Or you have a lot of shortcomings. So don't give da'wah. Don't lead prayers. Don't advise others. Even if things are crystal clear in front of you. Why aren't you forbidding this person from drinking alcohol in your presence? He says, Wallahi, ya Shaykh, I have a problem. I smoke and I don't pray on time and I miss a prayer or two in the masjid, so I'm not fit to advise him. Subhanallah. Who is fit? In this category, the only person who's fit is the Prophet ﷺ. He's the perfect human being. It is wrong for you to look down at yourself and not do what you have to do with this lame excuse that you are not fit or you're not up to it or you don't have knowledge. You've said that you're the only one who can speak Arabic and can pronounce Arabic in a good fashion or a good way. So why retreat and allow others who are not capable of doing what you can do? You have to deliver the khutbah if there's no one else to do this, and you don't have to be the most pious person among them. All what you have to do is prepare a good khutbah, know what you're talking about, and deliver it, and this would do, insha'Allah. Because if we all look at this from this angle, none of us would give da'wah. Do you think all the scholars or all the da'is or all of us are fit to give da'wah? Or we are so pious and righteous that, mashallah, we are the cream of the society? No. But it is an obligation that if we do not come forward and give it, someone else who is probably not as capable of doing it would come and step forward. Therefore, it's an obligation. It is not something of choice that we do or think highly of ourselves that we are doing. And this is what would please Allah, and this is what we seek Allah's pleasure and reward from. Brother Yaqub says, Assalamu alaikum. I have 3 questions. The first question, well, the situation is as follows. He has 3 brothers who converted to Christianity over 10 years. and they all have families and live separately. So originally they were Muslims, but the three brothers committed the act of apostasy. They rejected Islam and they embraced Christianity. So his questions are as follows: how should I and the rest of my Muslim family treat them? How would a Muslim treat a relative who committed the act of apostasy? Well, first of all, you have to show the wala and the bara. You have to declare your refusal of such an act of apostasy. And you have to hate this act of apostasy. And you have to announce your rejection to such an act. Secondly, there are no pledges of allegiance between you and that relative who committed the act of apostasy, whether he is your father, your mother, or your brother. The minute he rejects Islam in such a fashion, you have no relationship with him or any pledge of allegiance to assist him or to help him. Thirdly, if you think or believe that it is possible that he may come back and he may listen to what you say, in this case, it is permissible for you to visit him, to give him advice, even to give him gifts, so that maybe Allah Azza wa Jal would open his heart for you to accept him or for him to accept Islam once again. It is permissible for you to help him, providing that you feel that there is a possibility for him to come back. But if you feel that he is defiant, he is fixed on not accepting Islam, it would be advisable for you to shun him, to sever all connections with him, especially if you feel that this would add value and make him feel bad about what he had done. Because my relationship with any human being is dependent on what Allah Azza wa Jal has instructed me to do. So I love my neighbors, I love my family, and I love those who are related to me because they obey Allah Azza wa Jal. And if they're not Muslims, Allah tells me to connect to my next of kin. But if they committed the act of apostasy, this is blasphemy, and this severs all connections and commitment between me and them. His second question is, one of them is very well off, and he recently decided to give each of us, that is the rest of the family, a lump sum of cash to buy each a house or to start a business of our choice. He gave us the money in good faith and not as a loan to pay him back. As Muslims, is it permissible for us to accept that money? See, if this gift was given to you by a non-Muslim, by a Christian or by a Jew, I would have told you immediately to accept it. There's nothing wrong in accepting a gift at all. But coming from this apostate, coming from this person who rejected his faith, who rejected Islam, it would be like humiliating Islam and humiliating you. Because now we've said that you have to be straightforward with him, you have to hate what he has done, you don't socialize with him and have family visits and dine at his house and as if nothing has happened, and treating him as a true brother, and no matter what he had done, it's okay for you. No, this is not acceptable. We've stated this in point number 1. Now, after doing this, when he gives you money, and it's a lump sum, a lot of money to buy a house, then shaitan comes and says, well, okay, he committed an act of apostasy, but maybe if I accept it and buy the house and a new Porsche or a new Ferrari, maybe Allah Azza wa Jal will open his heart and he would accept Islam again. So it's okay. No. Now this is your desires intervening and your whims telling you to do things that are not correct. Personally, I believe that you should not take this gift from him, because it would be a form of consent to what he is doing. And likewise, the third question, is it even allowed for us to accept a loan from him coming from a Jew or a Christian? Yes, it is. It is permissible to borrow from him. But coming from this person who committed an act of apostasy and rejected Islam, it would be a form of compromise. And I would not believe that this is permissible. Hadiza says that my question is regarding paying back my fast. She's pregnant for the second baby, and Ramadan is approaching. How do I make up for the fast that I missed? Do I feed a miskin? Do I feed a poor person for each day during or after Ramadan? Or do I fast for the missed days after Ramadan? She says that she fed a miskin for the first baby, that's for the days missed before, and some people are telling her that it is wrong and that she has to pay back fasting for the whole month that she has missed. The majority of scholars say that if a pregnant woman or a breastfeeding woman misses days of Ramadan due to the pregnancy or to breastfeeding, or for the fear over their infants or their pregnancy, then they have to make up for these days. And some of them say they have to make up for these days and also feed a poor person if they do not make up in the same year. If another Ramadan comes and they did not make up for the first Ramadan, they have to feed a poor person as well. And the authentic opinion, the most authentic opinion is that no, there is no feeding, none whatsoever. If you were pregnant and you missed first Ramadan, and after delivering the baby, the second Ramadan came and you were breastfeeding, you were unable to fast it, then the third Ramadan comes and you're pregnant again, you can't fast. The fourth Ramadan, you could not also make it up. You have 4 Ramadans to make up. So after the obstacles are gone, after the fact that you can make up because you don't have anything to prevent you from doing this, you're not breastfeeding and you're not pregnant and you have no reason for you to skip Ramadan, you have to start making up for the days missed in Ramadan. And you can do this in winter, you can do this when the day is short, you can do this and not necessarily in a row. You can make it one day and skip one day, or you can do it on Thursdays and Mondays, but you have to make up for the days missed. And the opinion of feeding a poor person for every day that was missed and not making it up is not a strong opinion of scholars. Brother Ibrahim, and he's from South Africa, says that why is Allah referring himself as we in the Quran? In the Quran, if you read it, there are different usages of the pronoun. So sometimes Allah Azza wa Jal refers to himself as I, and sometimes Allah refers to himself as we. So what's the significance and why is this taking place? This, inshallah, what we will find out after the break, so stay tuned.
All the prophets are brothers, and they represent the same message. What was the call of the prophet? What was his invitation? He was inviting to what? So the prophet said, "Oh Allah, grant your mercy on the one who is tolerant if he sails, on one who is tolerant if he buys, and one who is tolerant when he seeks his rights."
In this program, Sheikh Abdul Rahman Damashkia presents Reminders, a bouquet of various reminders and admonitions that we need to strengthen our faith, taste its sweetness, perfect our acts of worship and refine our morals.
Try to discipline them in the best way. Those daughters will be his shield. That means those will be the reason, the cause of his protection from hellfire. Because of what? Taking care of them. What you have in this life, no matter what you have, is less. And it is temporary.
Huda TV wishes you and your family a spiritual and rewarding Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Brother Ibrahim from South Africa is asking about why Allah is referring to himself as we in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal, if you read the Quran, refers to himself as I, or refers to himself with the pronoun we. And this is a well-known way in Arabic. All Arabs know this, that in order to glorify someone, or when someone is in a prestigious place, he refers to himself that we. So the king or the queen could say that we, the Queen of England, have decided to do this and that. We, the king of so-and-so, want to establish this and that. So when he says we as a king, he's not referring to the government, he's not referring to his family, he is referring to himself as the king. And Allah Azza wa Jal is the only one worthy of being glorified and being praised, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah talks about himself that we have revealed the dhikr and we are the protectors of it, this is referring to Allah as the only provider for humanity, Allah Azza wa Jal, the only creator of humanity, Allah Azza wa Jal, the only sustainer for all this universe. Brother Tajuddin has a question. And he says that that he has his money in a saving account in a bank, and he receives interest from it. Currently, he is taking the interest amount from the bank and giving it to the poor without expecting reward from Allah. Is this allowed or not? Please advise. If you go to a bank, usually, according to what I know, you have the choice of having a current account or a savings account. A current account is an account that they give you a checkbook and you deposit the money, you withdraw the money whenever you want, as much as you want, and they don't give you any interest on it. A saving account is different. It's an agreement between you and the bank that you save a certain amount of money, and they would invest this money in their business or in any fashion they see fit, and they would give you a fixed interest, 1%, 2%, 5%, depending on what they generate or what they agree with you. If this is the case, if the bank has these two accounts and you choose a saving account, this means that you are dealing in riba. This means that you have committed a major sin, because the choice was yours. You're the one who chose to open this bank account knowing that they will give you interest, while you had the choice to open a current account with no interest. So you wouldn't be dealing in riba if you opened a current account, but you chose not to. In this case, it is sinful for you to have this bank account. And the interest you're getting, definitely it would be logical that you give it away to the poor as a form of cleansing your money, but you will not be rewarded for that. And this would not exempt you from the punishment, because you chose this. and you decided to deal in riba. Now, the second scenario is a different one, and that is when you open a saving account because there isn't any other account. There are certain countries and certain banks that don't have a current account, or they merge the two. It is a current account, but at the same time they deposit or they give you interest on the money you have in their banks, whether you like it or not. So if this is the scenario, if this is the bank that does not give you the room or the opportunity to open a current account, in this case, what you're doing is right. You take the interest and you dispose of it in means that are permissible as a form of cleansing your money, not as a form of getting closer to Allah or seeking the thawab or the reward from Allah the Almighty. Now, having said that, I know that there are some scholars that would say if it is an interest-based bank, a traditional and conventional bank, I know that whatever I deposit with them, they will deal in riba with it. They will lend it to people and they will get interest from them. So if I decide to open a current account, it would be as if I'm saying to them, keep the interest for yourself, and this would add to their wealth and would make them stronger and richer. That is why I'm opening a saving account, so that I would deprive them from this interest and I would utilize it in the goodness of humanity. At the first glance, this is a very noble cause. But if you analyze it Islamically, at the end of the day, on the day of judgment, when you come and stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah is questioning you, my slave, my servant, why did you open a saving account and charged interest for that? What would your answer be? Would you say, oh Allah, I took the interest, I dealt in riba, but I paid the money for the poor and the needy? This does not change the fact that you dealt in riba, that your transactions were haram, which Allah forbade you from doing. Therefore, your noble cause is not going to help you because you did something wrong. It's like someone saying that I have a noble cause of calling this beautiful lady to Islam. She's not a Muslim, so I will invite her for dinner and we will have this chat together for 3-4 hours, maybe go to a nightclub, but only for the sake of Allah. I'm doing this so that I call her for Islam. This is a noble cause, but the method being used is haram. It's forbidden for you to do this, to chat, to socialize, to do all of these acts, even if you have a noble cause. It has to be in accordance with the Quran and Sunnah. And that is why in numerous places in the Quran, Allah says that those who believe and do righteous deeds. You can believe and have a noble cause, but if the methods used are not proper and not in accordance with the Quran and Sunnah, you would be sinful for doing this. Mamasa sent us this email, and she says that I want to ask if it is haram for a sister to go to the hospital for checkup to see what problems her private parts might be having. This is because she believes that something is not right. So it is permissible to go to a doctor to have her check on her and look at her awra for such a reason. Well, the answer is if she feels that there is something wrong, though it is not painful, though there is nothing that can be disturbing, but she feels that there is something wrong, it is permissible for her to go to the doctor and ask the doctor to check her and fix what needs to be fixed, or at least to give her the answer that she has nothing wrong with her, inshallah. Ashma says that I want to ask if I can dye my hair color to fashion shades. This is first question. And dyeing the hair is permissible, providing a person does not dye his hair or her hair in black. We must avoid the color black. This is not permissible in Islam, to dye our hair in black. So you can dye your hair in any suitable color you wish, whether it's gray, it's dark brown, it's blonde, yellow. This is permissible. And providing that you do not imitate the disbelievers. So if a girl comes to me and says, Sheikh, I'd like to dye my hair in purple or in pink. Now this is not acceptable, because this is not usual, first of all. It would make a person stand out in a crowd, and in Islam this is not permissible. To wear something, or to do something, or to stand up in a crowd. It's not permissible for me to come out with a pink thobe, for example, or to wear a yellow head scarf, or whatever it's called. This is something that is not normal. It will make a person stand out in a crowd, and this is not permissible in Islam. So if she wants to dye her hair in awkward and strange colors or shades, this is not permissible. But if it's normal colors that everybody is doing it, and it's not imitating the kuffar, it is permissible, inshallah. And she is saying, what is the ruling on plucking the eyebrows? Well, the Prophet ﷺ cursed the women who do this to others, and the women who have this done to them. So, an-namisa wal-mutanammisa, they are cursed by the Prophet ﷺ, as in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and it is reported in the Sahih. It is a major sin, and it is punishable on the Day of Judgment, and it's completely unacceptable. There are a number of other questions for Sister Ashma, but I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. We will try to answer them, inshallah, next time we meet. So until we do, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow